What's happening, Internet? J Gamer Dude here. And Helldivers 2 PC players are now going to have to log in through PSN in order to actually play Helldivers 2 moving forward. Now, this is an interesting thing because if there's two things that I've learned over the years that PC players absolutely hate is exclusivity on the PC platform. That's the first thing. And the second thing being needing to log into multiple different places. Because yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it does cause some level of annoyance. The one thing you want to not do is annoy PC players, but they get annoyed way too easily. An example of this from the past was actually the fact of the Epic Games Store launching back in 2019. Where people were just sort of mad and upset and eventually just, sort of groaned and got used to it over the years since then. From things like games being left behind. So I guess it says unfair here, but games being exclusive to Epic Games launcher instead of coming to Steam, because people do prefer to play all their games on Steam and things along those lines, leaving Steam behind because Epic Games Store at the time did not have anywhere near as many features as what Steam did. And so those are like two things that Helldivers 2, not Helldivers 2, PC players really don't like, and so Helldivers 2 has certainly shown that again, where moving forward, in order to play the game, you would need to link a PSN account in order to do so, or in order to really play the game. Now, interesting thing to keep in mind here is that on the Helldivers 2 Steam page, it was always mentioned that a PSN account would be required as a yellow box. So like how on the right hand side of Steam, you've got like, the game image, you've got, the game, you've got the image, and then you've got some information about the game. Just below that is where you would find warnings to the effect of third-party login required, supports controllers, DualSense support, and just things along those lines. So that's kind of what you would expect to see. There's no screenshots of it here. Maybe I should have actually made a screenshot, but yeah, that was always there on Helldivers 2's. This is going to be really weird sounding when I say it aloud. Helldivers 2's Steam page has the information there to say, look, you got to log in to a PSN account if you want to play. And so I thought, okay, that's interesting. So it's not like it's coming out of nowhere. And also when you did boot into Helldivers 2, there was a splash screen saying that you do need to log in with a PSN account in order to play the game. Now, it has not been enforced up until now because of the technical issues that Helldivers 2 has been having since launch. So at launch, there were a bunch of issues. Most of those issues were pretty much ironed out fairly quickly, and Helldivers 2 is also an incredibly popular game that has hundreds and thousands of people playing it at any given point in time or any given day on Steam. And I think it's Steam that's really sort of carrying the sales numbers. So the fact of the matter is that it's never been enforced that you have to log in with a PSN account until now, and that was as part of the new May update. And so obviously I've kind of explained, here are what, PC players really don't like. Here's something that Helldivers 2 is doing that PC players are really not going to like, which is logging into PSN in order to play the game. Now, for the third and final layer, why is Helldivers 2 doing this? This actually isn't Helldivers 2, or rather Arrowhead, the developers. It's not them that are doing it. This is actually from Sony. So Helldivers 2 is developed by Arrowhead, but they don't do the moderation. Instead, Sony does the moderation for Helldivers 2, and they do it from their own their own internal systems is what they use. So the problem with that is you can't get a Steam account to talk to a PSN account until you link it. And so if you don't link it, then you can't moderate from Sony's side when it comes to banning players and doing stuff along those lines. And that's kind of where the rub is. It's an interesting view of like things going wrong from things being difficult from a technical point of view and a moderation point of view. You need to moderate, but here's a technical limitation that needs user input in order to actually make the whole thing work and run. And I thought that this was kind of like a fascinating thing to talk about. Is this a mistake? It could have been a mistake from the very beginning to even ever have had this idea in the first place. But the thing is that if there is no moderation, then the game can get very... let's just say it would probably turn into like Escape from Tarkov, which has a massive hacking problem and things just along those lines. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I feel like nothing truly will end up being done to fix problems and issues that happen later on. So it does make sense to have moderation. However, it kind of didn't really make sense. And I suppose the main issue is the messaging, because I think what they should have done is, rather than a small yellow box on the bottom right hand side where people don't look, because people are only going to click on buy or play game, which is just immediately available to you right in front of you, that people aren't going to go nosying around the Steam store page in order to find more information. Had people done that, maybe the game would not have sold as well, but I'm just kind of guessing here. Rather, they should have just had a massive banner on the top of the Steam store page to say, look, you are going to have to, log in with a PSN account moving forward. At some point, currently it's disabled, just letting you know. And, that sort of thing. So, at the moment, it is being bombarded by thousands of negative ratings? Whatever you want to call it. Yeah, negative user reviews. That's what I meant to say. Concerned about potential security risk and data harvesting. And let's jump back to this Kotaku article about why people are mad at Epic Games Store. And that is partly because concerns about spyware and or conspiracy theories. I feel like it just kind of runs in cycles, isn't it? It really is one of those things where, like, sure enough, with Xbox games like Sea of Thieves need to do this, where you need to force, people need to log in with their Microsoft accounts to play Sea of Thieves. But Helldivers 2 is the only PlayStation Studios PC game that actually requires this, or has this requirement at all. So it's just interesting to sort of step back, look at, and be like, maybe this could have been handled a bit better. But regardless, it is what it is, and it most certainly will not be overturned for what I can tell, because Sony isn't likely to budge on that. And I mean, if only Sony maybe spoke to Steam on how they can, moderate better, maybe that would have been the way to go. But maybe it was always planned that moderation was going to be done on the Sony side. Very difficult to tell, but there's a lot of like technical work and wiggle room. Actually, very little wiggle room, but a lot of technical work that needs to be done to make all of this work ultimately in the end. But that's just kind of what's happening. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 200 views, but 200 subs by the end of the year. And with all that said and done, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.